Hills of Success is a series that promotes money matters to smart women. During each episode, Zenelia Harris will share money lessons that debunk the typical messaging you hear around women and money. So if you want to gain valuable money tips wrapped around professional advice to help you navigate your personal money and professional journey, tune in to Hills of Success. Hello, I would like to welcome you to Hills of Success, a Finance and Stilettos podcast series. I'm Zenelia Harris, author of the book Finance and Stilettos, Money Matters for the Well-Heeled Woman, certified financial planner, former member of the CNBC Financial Advisor Council, and president of Harris & Harris Wealth Management Group, a firm focused on the financial success of professional women who are going through various life transitions such as job change, marriage, widowhood, or retirement. I would like to welcome my guest, attorney Tatarsha Harris. She is a domestic litigator with offices in both Baltimore and Columbia, Maryland. Attorney Harris obtained her law degree in 2002 from Seton Hall University School of Law in Newark, New Jersey. She concentrates her practice in the areas of domestic and family law and has 20 years of experience. Her areas of expertise include divorce, custody, visitation, child support, alimony, and equitable asset distribution. Tatarsha began her law career as a judicial clerk for the Honorable Judge Catherine Languis for the Supreme Court of New Jersey in Morristown, New Jersey. Early in her career, she served as corporate counsel to the city of Newark, New Jersey. Subsequently, she relocated to Maryland and litigated family law cases as an associate for a large Baltimore County law firm. Tatarsha opened her practice in Baltimore City in 2012 and expanded her practice to Howard County, Maryland in 2016. Today, Tatarsha resides in Anne Arundel County, Maryland, with her 2 teen daughters. Let's welcome my guest, attorney Tatarsha Harris. So, Tatarsha, tell me how you ended up actually just becoming an attorney. And then how did you decide to specialize in family law?
Well, it's interesting because I became an attorney based off of a comment that my mother made when I was really young. I used to want to be a pediatrician like Dr. Huxtable until I figured out what they really do, or an obstetrician. When I figured out what they really do, I definitely wasn't interested. And so my mom said to me one day, you like to argue, you should become a lawyer. And that kind of just sat with me. And once we had that conversation and I learned what attorneys do, advocacy has always been really important to me. So I just stuck with it. And I wound up at Seton Hall Law School. I graduated in 2001, and I've been practicing family law ever since.
Wow.
So becoming a family lawyer, I just kind of got pigeonholed into it, really. When I first got out and I went to a firm, I was working as an associate in a firm, and I handled 1 or 2 family law cases. And, when you're good at something, people want you to stay in that role. So it's kind of how I developed my reputation. It's what I had the most experience in when I decided to go out on my own. So I've stuck with it. It's been 20 years.
Wow. I think that practicing family law, for me, it appears that it could be difficult just because of the fact that you're dealing with families, you're dealing with a lot of emotions. So can you share with us what it looks like to you on the other side?
Family law is definitely a difficult discipline, and it's tough because, as you can imagine, you're dealing with people at their most vulnerable state in life. There's nothing more, for some, there's nothing more painful than a divorce besides death. And so it's a very difficult time. People are upset, they're angry, they're uncertain about their future. And so it's really about learning how to advocate on behalf of your client, manage feelings and expectations, and ultimately rally your client, along with your plan to get them the best result. And it's not always easy, but with experience, it has gotten better.
So if someone is considering this, which is a very hard decision to come to, what suggestion would you give to them to prepare before they come to you?
Well, in terms of preparedness, I think the issue that I run across the most is the spouse who is just not financially ready. They're not financially ready to be on their own, but they're also not ready in terms of being able to put forth a financial case. So they don't know where their spouse banks, they don't know where the money is, they don't pay the bills, they don't know how much the mortgage is. So if it's something that you're thinking about doing, one thing that I would suggest is make sure that you have a good handle on your financial information. Know the passwords, know the bank accounts, and you don't even have to have specific information in terms of statements and things like that. I just need to know where your spouse banks. I just need to know where the accounts are held, and we can figure out the rest. But you'd be surprised how many clients come to me and their spouse handles all of the finances, and they just have no clue.
Yeah, I think it's very important, even in a marriage or any type of partnership, whether it's a marriage or it could be a business relationship as well, because you partner with someone, that you both need to sit down and understand the money. You need to understand where things are. You need to have that conversation. Even if you're not the one that's responsible for it in the relationship, you still need to understand where things are. And I think it's really important also, just in general, that you know where passwords are. So I'm a big proponent in using tools, so using LastPass or some type of tool or application such as that to have all your passwords in one place, because some people put it on spreadsheets, or who knows where they could be. And some people just remember their passwords. We have so many, but just having them in a location, a secure location that both partners have access to, and you have access to each other's. I think is really, really key. So
yeah, I agree. And you'd be surprised. One thing that always comes up or comes up often is when you're thinking about divorce in particular, it's important to know what retirement assets are subject to division. I have people come to me and they know that their spouse has a retirement, but what type of retirement is it? Is it a 401k? Is it a pension? Is it vested? Like, they just have no idea. And that's all information that we can find out, but the information is a lot easier to get if you have a direction. And so I never it's not optimal to have to rely on your spouse to feed you the information that you need to get a fair result. And so, because it is as much as you hate to think of it that way, it is an adversarial process. And so they do have a vested interest in you not knowing everything.
That is true.
So the more you know, the easier it is to get a fair result.
And when you're dealing with the aspect of divorce, do you, when in working with your clients, do you recommend that they build a team around them to support them during this time?
Definitely. I am so glad that you mentioned that. I think it is so important And I don't think that individuals realize the importance of having a team until you're actually in the thick of it. One of the things that I find myself saying to clients as gently as I can, that's maybe something that you want to talk to your therapist about. How do you talk to your therapist about what you're thinking or feeling? Because I'm just not trained. I don't have the expertise to deal with emotions on the level that people need when they're going through a divorce. I am tasked with staying focused and, conveying the law to you as, plain as I can and making a cogent argument to the court, but that doesn't always, leave room for feelings and emotions and things like that. And so it's always better if you have a client that is processing feelings and emotions with a therapist. I think it's important also to work with an accountant or a financial person like yourself, particularly if you're older and thinking about retiring, or you've been married for a long time and your assets are such that once you're divorced, you're going to be living on half of what you were living on before. You may need to downsize. And so you need someone to help you see what that might look like.
In working with a team, so in having someone like a financial planner assisting the client, what do you want that relationship to look like in working with you?
Well, it's always best if particularly your attorney and your financial advisor are at least in communication or have some type of rapport, because as your financial planner sets out a plan for you, I need to make sure that legally it's something that we can achieve.
Okay.
So it's good if we're in communication and talking about the plan for you. The plan for a client moving forward with the divorce needs to be collaborative and comprehensive. So we all need to be on the same page.
Wow. Yes, I agree. Now, is there, in working with your clients, would you take another approach other than litigation to dissolve a marriage?
Sure. There are many ways to dissolve a marriage amicably. Instead of litigation, Maryland now allows you to get a divorce based on the grounds of mutual consent. And it simply requires you to have a comprehensive agreement that settles all issues that relate to your marriage. So that would be custody, child support, if there are children, alimony, if there's to be alimony to be paid, and whatever assets you've accumulated during the marriage, there needs to be a plan on how you all intend to either dispose of those assets or split those assets up. And so as long as you have a document that addresses all of those things, you can get a divorce in Maryland on the grounds of mutual consent. There's also another avenue that many people aren't aware of, but it's called the collaborative law process. And what it is when two attorneys work together to develop a plan for individuals that are divorcing that does not involve litigation. And so it's really the two attorneys, it's like a long mediation process or several mediations. You get to the collaborative lawyers, get together, they talk about the issues, you meet with the clients, the attorneys and the clients all get together, and you just simply sit down, pen to paper, and work it out until your marital estate is settled and you have a plan. And then you get the mutual consent divorce or uncontested divorce without ever having, to set foot inside of a courtroom except, to put your divorce agreement on the record.
Okay.
So the collaborative process is gaining popularity, but it only works when you have spouses that are, they get along and they're not angry with each other.
Yeah. Now, are you finding now that you're seeing a lot of what you call gray divorces, people over 50 getting divorced after the kids have grown up and, graduated college?
I would say that there's definitely been an uptick in gray divorce. And when these new clients started to come in the door, I was so curious about what was the precipice of it all, because it seemed sudden. But I think that COVID had a lot to do with it. I think people having to be in the house for, the amount of time that we were in for COVID really enlightened individuals and highlighted areas of the marriage that weren't working. And, people have just decided that after COVID that they're ready to do different things. So there's definitely been an uptick.
Wow.
With what we call gray divorce. And gray divorce would be individuals where one spouse or both spouses are over the age of 50.
Yeah, so we're going to turn the questions a little bit and talk about you. So, I'm going to talk about money in some way. And we were talking about it because I do think that my personal opinion is that divorce can be really expensive. And a lot of times it's contentious. Just because of anger, and that's why I was asking about building a team, because you need to deal with that. And I think so that you can get to a healthy space, because at the end of the day, at some point you love that person. Otherwise, you wouldn't have married them. But if you can get to a space where, now this is me talking, I'm still married. So, but just, I think, and my husband and I actually have talked about this. We just said that what our goal would be is to try to do what's in the best interest of our daughter. And so we have real conversations, because, things come up and you just kind of like, well, what do you think about this? And also, just as you just encounter friends that may be going through this process, like, what does this look like and how can you approach this and things like that. And a lot of times as women, we tend to be, and this is not always the case, but a lot of times women can tend to rely on their husbands in a heterosexual relationship to handle all of the finances, assuming that they can. It's just an assumption. Okay, well, he's going to handle that. And I think that you should never do that, because you should both be engaged in this process, because it affects your whole family. It affects you. And so knowing what's going on helps you to understand the components of what's happening in your family. And also you need to, participate and contribute to the decisions that are being made about this. So I just think that it's in anything, whether you're connected to someone or not, you need to have a clear understanding about your finances. So, but now about you, share with me a little bit about your perspective regarding money and your thoughts around it, especially with what you do and for a living.
Well, I'm a single mom. So as a single mother, of course, I am the only person that provides any input with regards to finances. All of the decisions fall on me. So when it comes to finances, I would say that my relationship with money was, it is, I would say, still developing. I think that, growing up with a scarcity mindset, I think that it certainly shapes your relationship with money, and like changing that is difficult. And so in times where I could have been more free with the type of saving that I was doing, more adventurous, I think that it's taken me too long in my ripe old age of 47. It's taken me too long to take risks. And I wish that, I was more comfortable when I was younger, I think that I would have a lot more financial resources available to me if I had of taken more risk.
Wow. So what did you see growing up regarding money in your family? Because you're mentioning about the scarcity mindset.
Mm-hmm.
So I was wondering where that came from for you.
Well, I grew up in a middle-class family. My mom was the primary breadwinner. And she was a receptionist for 30 years. She worked for GE. And she was a hard worker, never missed a day of work. She was very reliable and dependable. And my mom was extremely good with money because as I look back, we didn't have a whole lot. I mean, we certainly weren't poor, but there was not a lot of extra. And so my mom's mindset was always, she was very responsible for money. She made sure that the bills were paid and things like that, but there was never any room for extra. And so extra would be anything that wasn't a bill to include, investing and things like that. And so if you're saving, you're doing well. It's kind of the mindset that we grew up with. You kind of work to pay bills.
Right.
And
I think a lot of us grew up seeing that in our household.
Right.
You work to pay bills, because I can identify with that too. I saw that in my household as well. Everything was about I'm making money to make sure that the bills are paid for. Anything extra wasn't discussed, or if there was something extra, it went towards paying a bill. I didn't see it go towards savings and thinking about the future. It was always about what needs to be handled today.
Correct. And we're having this conversation, I'm thinking about a time, this was maybe 10 years ago. I don't want to date myself, but I had a client who was going through a divorce, and he was overseas, and he tried to pay me in a Bitcoin. And this is when the technology was extremely new.
Yes.
And of course, my reaction was, I'm going to need you to come up with that cash. I didn't need Bitcoin, right?
Right.
But looking back, I probably would be doing really well with that investment had I taken it, way back when. Because it was like in the very beginning when, I don't even know, I don't even have the proper terminology for Bitcoins and that entire type of currency. But my point is, I should have taken the Bitcoin.
Right.
If I didn't have that scarcity mindset, if I was a little bit freer and more adventurous with finances, then I would have taken that risk.
Right. So do you think, knowing what you know now about your life, how does that influence what you share with your daughters about money?
So because I didn't grow up with financial knowledge, I make sure that my daughters are surrounded by individuals that are able to teach them what I didn't know. And so my daughters, I have a very good friend, my good friend from college. Her husband is, just financially savvy, and he has learned how to day trade, and they make a lot of money in the stock market. And so when my girls were in the 7th and 8th grade, he used to meet with them every Sunday to talk to them about the market and really teach them how to watch it. Because if you think about it, the children are the future in many ways, including what's going to be financially successful, what people will be what's trending, what's on TikTok. They're up on all of that. And so why not use their knowledge to make them money.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you see a trend on TikTok, let's figure out the company that's, promoting this particular product and invest. And
right.
see how it does. And my girls love it.
That is wonderful.
So much more financially savvy than I am. But it also makes them more mindful of current events. And so, my kids watch the news so that they know, what the market is going to do. And they've been taught and trained to make those decisions and keep an eye out for those types of trends. So I'm proud of them.
I would be, because that is so true. I think if I knew that I would be doing this now, I would have probably paid attention when I was in high school to current affairs and paid attention to history, because history and the markets are very closely tied. Different things affect how the market responds. So political situations can cause volatility. Current political polarization can provide volatility. We see that now. So I love it that they are so engaged with understanding how investing works.
Correct.
Because so many women are still learning it and trying to become comfortable with it no matter what age they are. So them getting this at a young age puts them ahead in so many ways as they get into the workforce when they graduate college. So because I've met people, or had clients to tell me, oh, I wish I had met you when I was younger, because I would have done things differently. And then I met women who are very savvy and have done the right things with their money. So you just have a gambit. But I will say that I have the majority of women I have encountered, they want to learn but don't know where to start. So I feel like part of a major part of what I do is the education. What this is. Right. Just explaining what things are and taking time to help them to understand it. So I love it that they got this as in the 7th and 8th grade. This is great. If someone wanted to consider going into family law, what advice would you give them?
It's not for everyone. I mean, you have to have a steady hand, and the law is no different than any other discipline. Like, an obstetrician may not be a good chiropractor, and I mean, or so it's the same. You really have to consider how you personally relate to people, how gentle you can be. When it comes to feelings and emotions, some people aren't gentle. And if you're not gentle, then a family law may not be for you. And you have to be ready to be in a posture of service. I mean, being a family law attorney is more than knowing the law. Your clients want you to be available for them. They want to call you. They want to run things past you, and you have to be open and patient to developing a different type of relationship with your clients. Because I handle civil litigation as well, and those clients are completely different. People behave differently when you're talking about children as opposed to, breach of contract. So you have to, really search yourself to see whether or not you can be compassionate. That's what family law requires, compassion.
Yeah, I say that about this industry as well. You have to have, the foundation needs to be coming from a place of service and also a place of compassion. And because you're dealing with people at different parts of their life, and when you become a client, generally, you're with your clients for a long time. So you're going to experience so many things with them, alongside them, and you're going to be guiding them in a lot of different things. So in my opinion, it has to start with being compassionate and understanding.
Right. Yeah.
So I completely agree with that, but I hadn't thought about it in the aspect of becoming a family law attorney. But I see it though. I see exactly what you're saying, and I love that you're stating that you have to come from or work with clients from a position of service.
Yeah.
And that I don't think I've ever heard that from an attorney. I'm not saying that that may not be how they feel, but I just love that you said it.
Right. It's the truth. I mean, like, and it's a fine line sometimes, because when you're going through a divorce, things are over, and you think that you know what you want, but it's my clients don't always know how to articulate it and get to it.
Right.
And so, as their attorney, just because they say they want one thing doesn't necessarily mean that that is what they want. Like,
right.
Being able to navigate, again, those thoughts, emotions, and feelings, and having, the ability to see things in the distance, and being able to articulate, I know you're upset right now, but if you do this, then in 5 years, this is what will happen. Or if you do this, then this is how your child might feel. Or this is how it might ultimately affect your custody schedule. And you have to be able to look at all circumstances through that lens, because your client is physically not able to do it, emotionally not able to do it, just not capable. And so I guess the position is unique in that sense, because you're doing something for another individual that they cannot do for themselves.
Right.
They just can't. You can't handle this by yourself. You can't do this. So let me, bridge that gap.
Right. I love it. I love it. I love it. So share with us, how can people reach you if they're in the process of considering a divorce? Because again, we've already stated earlier that this is a hard decision. Coming to this decision for anyone who has been partnered or connected to someone for years, it's not an easy place to be. But if you find yourself in the situation where you have thought this through and you feel that the best course of action for you is to separate and go your separate ways, how can they reach you?
Well, I'm easy to find. You can find me on the internet. My website is www.tharrislaw.com. You can call my office. The number to reach me is 410-670-8200. Or you can drop me an email. My email is really easy. It's my name, Tatarsha.harris@tharrislaw.com.
Thank you so much for sharing your insights, sharing your expertise with my audience, and I appreciate the insight that you shared about you personally.
Thank you for having me.